November 11th, 1970. This is the 32nd conversation with Vishnu. See, those present now are Jeff List,
Robin King, Julie Howard, Linda Land,
Jim Skiathidis,
Donna Braden, Fran Brewer,
Ted Slipchinsky, Joel Todd, Michael Skinner,
Phyllis Hamilton.
Okay, and Chris is here. There are a couple of things that I want to explain. First, about the future of this book. There are going to be several steps that have to be taken. The first step will be, of course, the transcribing of these things onto the paper. And then they will be edited and they will be mimeographed for everyone. Second step is that I will come down to the Brotherhood, talk the next month or two with each member of the Brotherhood regarding this business. Because to see exactly how what Vishnu has said has fitted in with your lives and what you think about the whole thing. And I want to talk to each person individually. And then there will be time necessary for us to study all of these transcriptions. And then we will raise all of the doubtful questions wherever there is a doubt or dispute about interpretation of anything Vishnu has said. This will be clarified with Christ in a series of conversations with him. 4 years it will take to get this book ready for publication. So therefore, we mustn't be impatient, Elwood. It's going to take about 4 years to do it. But we'll all work together, you see, during this time, and it will be a joint product of everybody. Now, there was one other thing that happened. I have been pretty much a resistant about this question of a so-called Aquarian age. Just don't believe it, you know. I don't believe that everybody's going to get spiritual at once, and I've said so many times. I don't believe that the thugs that run the city of Newark are suddenly going to get spiritual insight, you know. Don't buy this Aquarian age stuff. Well, finally the answer came on the way over today, and I thought I'd share it with you because it does clarify it for me. What I got from Spirit seemed to be this. There will be no new age, but there is a new light. These transcriptions from Vishnu are furnishing a new light in the world. And when Vishnu speaks of raising the vibration of the world, he meant that in raising, he will raise the vibration throughout the globe, the world, to the point where many people, all those who are capable of getting into the spiritual life, you see, all those who are ready and capable to do so, will be brought into contact with each other and with us. And so, I mean, it will be to help in that higher vibration would mean a better reception or a wider reception of this new light in the world. But that, at any rate, satisfies my understanding. And so I just wanted to pass it on to you.
I am seen, yet I am unseen. I am real, yet I am unreal. Yet I am the limitation of mankind's knowledge, or not personification, but the fullness of my love. I am the I am. For when you breathe, I breathe. When you speak to the tree or the plant, or caress the animal, I am the I am, the fullness of all compassion. I am not removed from your scope of being. I am only limited by your limitation. For it is in entering into the fullness of all life, of all meaning, is to realize the full law of compassion. For it is in and around and surrounds the very structure of not one world, but many. It is not to sit within the limitation of your spirit, for I am in you and you are in me. When you pause upon your road of life, when you seek my knowledge, my understanding, it is not mine, but belongs to all the infinitude of full expression, of full spiritual love, and the fullness of all your lifetimes and of your efforts in the future. Look not to me with prayers and wishes that are vain, but rather look in that full way of compassion. For I am that positive I am of all your feelings. And if all your limitations are mine, yet I cannot express the fullness of your life until you see me in every little object, in every great thought, in every fullness of your love. For it is in your purpose in life that you shall come into the knowledge of me, in the full understanding of all the laws that govern your creation. It is not my creation. It is the fullness of all energy that through the process of all vibration express the fullness of all true desire. It is your thoughts that can change the history of mankind. It is your thoughts that remove the limitations of your very being and thereby allow you to come into the fullness of your purpose in the material body. It is your limitation, and it is mine. When you pause not on the roadway of your existence, and there give full knowing and appreciation of all that you touch, not only with your physical hand, but the full power of that spiritual hand that resides upon the flesh of your flesh. It is to pause upon your station of life and to caress, to love, to give all this compassion to each and every minute object, and to look upon each other in the fullness of not only love, but to know that each is upon its own vibration of expression. And when you criticize, scorn, or judge, you are not injuring your brother, but it is reflection of vibration to your own spirit that causes you the vexation and the unbalance of your full growth. So I urge you upon this finest of laws, this finest of all energized substance, that within the form of your spirit, that you seek the fullness of all infinite compassion. Remove all of the limited ways of your being. For to know God, to know Vishnu, to know the all in all, and enter the blissful state of peace, understanding, and balance, you must enter a complacency, a fullness of thought, and give that expression of spirit in every breath that you draw within yourself. For it truly is the breath of life, and it is when you breathe, you are the God of your own being. You are the expression of all life. And deny not yourselves the beauty of the world, the fullness of the law, and thereby enter into that blissful state of heavenly holiness that all speak about, yet look outward and upward when it is contained within your own spirit. For you are all gods. You are the image and the likeness of all creation. And though you destroy the form, you cannot destroy that spirit, that breath, that substance unseen, yet felt by the mighty thoughts of your own expression. Yet the growth of that spirit is in accordance with that karma which you have expressed, which you have knowingly taken upon yourself. But it is the fullness of all life, the greatest gift to all the universes, all of the laws, all of that governs your limitations, is the full breath of compassion.
Oh, Vishnu, what is the significance of the playful spirit of the kittens who are in this room with us?
Here is the creative force that is my force. This is the form of expression to you in your love, to see that I operate even within not only the animal, but in that all in all.
Oh, Vishnu, were any of us here ever incarnate on other planets?
You have not known the higher force of another planet, but rather to serve the expression of this material vibration until you travel within the spirit of energy, and thus know the energizing that you can do upon the galaxies. It is again the moment of limitation, for to open wide the door of your understanding of spirit, and to dare the vision, to soar upon the other planets, and there to communicate with spiritual intellectuals.
Oh, Vishnu, can the positive and negative aspects of a personality become detached and operate as independent entities?
As you think, as you express, and as you desire, there is nothing impossible with the chain reaction of all energized structure, which you have only probed into in a very short way. For your atom is but a small energized bit of your full spiritual capacity.
I'm not Vishnu, whether an individual can detach in two pieces, that the negative part of our personality become active psychically.
It can only be activated if you sit within the vile substance of your limitation in giving a full expression to violence and hate and greed. For these are slowly the malignant tumors that eat away the spirit of goodness.
Under what circumstances is it possible for negative entities of the astral plane to enter into and possess the body of a person?
Only when you lower your station of thought to where you give the fullness of negative conditions of which I speak, and not sit within the full power of compassion and love and the full giving to one another.
How may we achieve the power to apport or move physical objects from one place to another?
Through mind concentration, by giving a fullness of expression, attitude, and magnitude to the atom that explodes within the energy.
What are the psychic effects of the moon on man?
The moon is the effect upon man of a balance of energy within the expression of all spirit. It is not a limitation, but a fullness or purpose that exemplifies and speaks of a law of balance through the silence of what you understand as the ethers of your living.
Vishnu, would you give us the true location of the city of Atlantis described by Plato in terms of our latitudes and longitudes?
The city of Atlantis once lay within the embrace of the Florida coast and the Gulf. It was removed hence through the ocean tides, further along to the west side of your coastline, and there it shall appear again, but yet the limitation of one island, for there are many, and it is a constant energized pattern from the revolution of the earth structure, that they change and interchange according to the energized thought, not only from the probe of science, but the probe of the mind.
Vishnu, did the Book of Urantia, in the 15th century, written by 20 entities of higher intelligence, is that true, a true book?
It is only true in its fullness of not giving a knowing or purposeful way to the expression of spiritual law. For it is not to look within the structures of ideas or of expressions of people, but rather to gaze within yourself and see the full expression of what is meant to be said. For there is difficulty within the communication structure of the physical body, where in the meditations of the spirit there is perfect knowledge.
Vishnu, did an agency of our federal government arrange for the murder of Martin Luther King?
It was a great step in the wrong direction, for it was caused by those that are malignant within themselves and are greedy, violent, and hateful. And it was one that was bought through the 30 pieces of silver that constantly usurp the very powers of earth structure.
Vishnu, is there truth in Gene Dixon's prophecy of the danger of assassination to Pope Paul VI?
It is quite possible that there would be an unexplained sudden transition into spirit, for you will find that this be true even within yourself, within the Brotherhood, within all who are expressing a spiritual positive, and it shall be your defying, yet your daring, to give your life, if necessary, to the good of mankind.
Could you tell me how I was related to Michael before?
There was a strong relationship as mother and son, but it was incomplete, for there was tragedy within it. And thus this causes you a sadness and a lonesomeness when you look upon Michael. And this is only that condition that you must remove to see the fullness of your own spirit and not allow the limitation of knowing, but getting a fuller knowledge of your own being for the expression and the work that is yet ahead for you to do.
Vishnu, could you verify the 4 incarnations that I became aware of, and could you tell me the progression of these and the effect that it has on me now?
You are one that is very mystical in that you have been Paul in one, and yet it has been lost through the transition of a karma, where you have been within the violence of man itself, where you gave rejection to the fullness of compassion and degraded the spirit into a misunderstanding of that which you were trying to attain. This was one where you were violent in the arms of your being, of the arms of expression, where you gave violently to men the vindictiveness of your tongue and of your harshness and sensual desire. The one that is now exposed itself to you in all fullness, and yet you dare not speak of it, for you feel a rejection toward it, that you might be rejected in asking. But you are the fullness, the guiding force of Thomas Paine. And if you but read the works that you once wrote, you will dare open that avenue of limitation and see yourself as you once were, and then again see all that has not been said, but has been written. for it is all within your spirit. It is all within your revelation.
Vishnu, how does it happen that so many of those here have been people who, former times, were important in the world?
For they are all the expression within the circle of vibration that meet at this one time in the histories of your world, whereby they have all felt the knowledge, know the longing and the yearnings and the sadness that go with a spiritual positive nature. And it is limitation upon your thoughts when you cannot allow nor see that the years that go by within your lifetime have not changed. Only the scene before you has become more vivid. And each has walked by the Master, by the Sea of Galilee, by Jerusalem, through all of the avenues of the East, and at one time have been the shepherds of many flocks, yet in many different ways. For you have but a small portion of the biblical history of masters, disciples, and of the thousands of people that resided within these lands at that time. If you but unveil the mind of your thinking, there you will see that you too can share the full screen of all that has happened within the very history of your universe.
Vishnu, what's happening in the so-called Pentecostal movements where people are given a new spiritual awareness?
It is the gradual increase in vibration of the force of all compassion, and it is gradually entering within the hearts and the minds of men. For it comes as a thief within the night, and it is people that are realizing to turn the other cheek to the fullness and awareness of compassion. And each spirit encased in flesh is realizing that the negative way has become more fearful than they realize. For a giant has been unleashed among you, and it is the negative condition of all your own thoughts. But there is a goodness within the churches that will gradually change, and each thought or building of that expression shall be used for the reality when there is a new vibration that comes in of a higher frequency that gives the world the fullness of spiritual love.
Vishnu, how may I free myself to allow the freedom of my spirit come through in my writing?
By giving more of a fuller meditation to your spirit, not trying to use your brain to write, but rather to give more relaxation to the body, more meditation of the spirit, to become impersonal within the expression you want to give, and thereby open the writing condition that is there for you to do.
Vishnu, what do you see in me at this moment?
I see a sudden shifting or change of vibration. I see one that is not sure of himself, yet is sure within the spirit. For you yearn, you seek, and yet you do not feel the fullness of the color pattern which constantly invades your mind, yet does not give you the full explanation nor understanding of that condition. You will see as you grow there is more of an expression of your clairvoyance of purpose, and that shall be given to you within a very short time when you remove this limitation that you have placed upon yourself by not giving the fullness of your love to the fullness of compassion.
Vishnu, why do I feel the need to be alone and separate within the community?
It is good to be alone, to have your fullness of meditation, for it reflects back within your life when many lifetimes you have been alone and have found a delight within the caves of the East, where you have looked within the pyramids of Egypt, where you have denied the fullness of your expression of material needs, and have yet now in this lifetime must bring forth your fullness of love and expression to mankind by loving each other in the fullness of all expressions.
Vishnu, what karmic debts am I paying off in this lifetime? What do they have to do with these moods that sometimes overtake me? And how shall I attain that peace?
Each mood is a change of vibration. It is a change of each karma that you have lived. It is a change of each lifetime that you have cut short at a very young age. It is incomplete within the spirit, yet each mood denotes a new lifetime or an old one that you have experienced and lived. And once you open wider this door, once you gaze within ever a deeper meaning of your life, then comes the fullness of your understanding. For it has been lifetimes of negativity for you. And now that you enter the positive way, they bring about these moods that only as I express it change into many of the lifetimes you have known. You are on a good path of spirit. You are coming into the fullness of that. But only it is your way of removing that discipline, that limitation that you have placed upon yourself.
Vishnu, can you tell me what I need to know at this time and why I have such a fear of expressing myself?
For you are in a moment of a guilt complex that goes way into the other lifetimes that you have had, and you have carried that burden within yourself, for there is a large condition of uncertainty that exists within your very breast. And it is only that you can remove it by giving yourself more expression of life, to dare that you give more expression and not allow yourself to feel incapable of this way of your true self. And it is through this media that you will come into your own being and thus establish yourself as one. It is not to come into that way of limitation, of not being able to understand, but to look through it and not constantly think about the limitation of being unable to express. For this short circuits the energy that is around you, but to come into the fullness of your love within before you send it to those that you do love without.
Can you tell me about my love for books and how I can use this to serve the Brotherhood?
It shall come into the fuller meaning of books, but it is only one idea of many minds that is expressed. But constantly you have been the keeper of records within the church archives. You have also been a librarian in many lifetimes, and books are your constant companions within the spirit. But it is to look beyond the words and there see the full expression of energy so that you may interpret to the spirit and not to the brain.
Why do I feel that there has been a consciousness that I attained another lifetime perhaps, which is I'm being veiled from now?
For it is not yet that moment of vibration when you should know the fullness of your love or of your expression toward another. It is not to be impatient within that moment of the spirit, but rather to look forward to a understanding of why there is a purpose to your life. For there is the veil that you speak about, but it shall be removed, but only when you have grown away from your limitation of feeling unwanted and know that there is a fuller meaning in giving an expression to others and not limiting yourself to just one vibration or condition.
Who was it that I saw in my room night before last, and who was it that I talked to all the time?
You have within the scope of your being a moment when you will open your own vibratory force to the artistic ability that resides within. However, your limitation is feeling you are not adequate or not good enough to give the full expression of the spirit, and you feel an inferiority complex that makes you uncomfortable around others. It is not to be dodged away from the game of life, but put into the fullness of the spirit, and there see that once you give fully of that knowledge of the artistic way, then you will see and preserve the man that does stand in spirit and does a great deal of his work through your way of expression. And it is good, for here is a man that has known the great paintings of old, who has stood within the regions of all artistry, and through your vibration shall come into a fullness with him. And when you see him, you shall know him, for you knew him before in other lifetimes.
Vishnu, could you tell me about my relationship with Joel?
There is a fullness of your understanding of that love, and it shall come into more of a balance, but it is yet not a proper time to give it the fullest of all expression until there is more of a communication upon the level of silence and of the level of pure understanding.
Vishnu, how can I fill my part in with the band to the fullest?
By giving a fullness of your purpose to the musical scale. For music is not written in notes in the celestial heavens, but rather written within the color patterns of all expression. And as you play and work, you will see the colors transform before your eyes. For each color denotes a musical sound. And as these colors are interplayed upon each other, causes the fullness of music to be heard beyond the scope of your full understanding of the material way. For the music of the celestial heavens of which I speak is not limited to the atmosphere or to the heaven as you know it, but it is all encompassed within the sigh of the trees against the wind, and of the babble of the brook, or of the growing of the blade of grass, or the constant motion of all creative energy moving as one toward one into the one fullness of all musical expression.
Vishnu, what is the problem that my brother Timothy has and won't come of it?
For it is difficult for him to maintain his balance between a negative and a positive condition, or a feeling of masculinity or femininity that comes from a past karmic condition. And it is difficult in his way to look out upon a material world and feel afraid and uncertain of what lies before him. And it is a need for him to see within your understanding so that he may give a fuller meaning to his life. And it will be your counseling, your thought expression, your love that will give him that peace and understanding that he needs as a full individual.
Vishnu, did Christ rise from the dead to the point of possessing the body he had before?
Yes, that is a certainty, for he did rise and he did assume the physical structure of his former body. For there are the two kinds or the two ways of all materialization of atoms. It is through the thought desire of his spiritual fineness or purity that he was able to build the flesh and the bone of his former self, and there walk through the walls of all gross materiality, assume his position before Thomas, and there prove that he was the Master, not the Master Jesus, but the Master Christ, the Anointed One that looked within the fineness of all creativity and knew that there was nothing impossible once the change of atomic structure could be brought into the fullness of all fine spiritual expression.
Could you tell me of my desire to dance? And is the time right now for me to start getting into it?
It is to give it more of a fuller expression and not think about it with the brain, but rather give the full expression to the mind, to all of this. For this reflects back in your time as a ballet dancer, and one that danced before the King of England, one that has looked back into lifetimes and have danced before the tribesmen of the deserts, and have known the full Arabian scale of Arabian Nights that is expressed within your book. And now as you perceive the fullness of the stars, the tents and the sands, you will feel the soft wind of the warm desert come upon you, and there invade you, and you will dance with the fullness of your spirit. For this is just one form of the full expression of your spiritual being.
Vishnu, what happens to me when I do this spontaneous acting and I feel these like cold chills over me? Will I be using this in the future?
This is part of your growth within the psychic realm of your feeling toward actorship, or your feeling of giving to those that need and want to understand you. For through your acting ability, you will be able to persuade people to see a spiritual positive condition. For you have many times entered upon not only the stage of life, but the stage of actorship. And you have been known for the quality of your work within the Shakespearean theater. So give it full expression, and thereby the words that you once memorized shall flow like the mighty waters of love that encompasses you, that is not seen by the brothers that you now reside with.
Vishnu, why is it so hard for me to speak sometimes?
For it is the vibrational purpose at your present moment to remain silent, for to give a meditation to the spirit, for it has constantly been on flight within a material way, and it has not been allowed a fullness of purpose until you know that within the silence there comes the full message of your understanding. For yet you must remove the limitations of this life that has been placed upon it by others, and give a full individual expression to yourself. Then you will know the understanding and the love and the compassion that you want, and yet feel inadequate to give to others.
Vishnu, Stephen wants to know what is the meaning of the dream that he had concerning you of Krishna.
This is a meaning or a change to his desire, whereby he has wanted to float out upon the Krishna force, but has not dared the vision nor come into the doorway or the gateway of eternity to see the full expression of compassion of which I have spoken. Until he gives more of his fuller self to the meaning of spirit, he will find his defeat lies within his limitation.
Can you tell me about the Apostle James and why I feel close to him in the Garden of Gethsemane?
For there was a moment in the history of this time that you knew him, but not within yourself as the fullness of the disciple, but rather one that was a follower and counseled with him in many ways. But give of your own fullness of thought, and thereby the camera of your mind will be turned on, and you will be able to see that full expression that is there. For I use subtly among all of you the constant wordage of expression, for to give fullness of expression of your spirit, not of your brain, and to give a full expression to the compassion of God, that is all God, that is all life, then you know the fullness of why you are upon not only this earth, but your mission and the need for the fullness and the growth toward what you understand as perfection.